Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. The split between the Warriors and player Jonathan Kuminga is fast approaching. Kuminga and coach Steve Kerr are constantly at odds and don't speak the same language. Trading him would be the solution to end the impasse and allow Kuminga to develop elsewhere. A new option for Kuminga has emerged, and he's attracting interest from the rival Los Angeles Clippers. A pair of Pacific rival teams, the Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns, were front of the queue in Jonathan Kuminga's sign-and-trade discussions with the Golden State Warriors this offseason before the young forward eventually re-signed on a 2-year, $48.5 million contract. Yet it's another Pacific team that's now been floated as a potential destination for Kuminga when he inevitably becomes available from January 15, with the 23-year-old brought up as an ambitious trade target of the Clippers. Clippers floated as a potential next team for Jonathan Kuminga. According to Greg Swartz of Bleacher Report, Kuminga could become an option for the Clippers to address their aging roster, which ironically is also the case for the Warriors, who are set to become the first team in the last 20 years to start 4 35-year-olds consistently throughout the course of a season. The Los Angeles Clippers are the oldest team in the NBA, 28.4 average age, and desperately needs some young talent to sprinkle in with all of its veterans, Swartz wrote. With reports that Los Angeles is done building around Kawhi Leonard, Kuminga could learn from the two-time Finals MVP now and become a pillar for the Clippers over the next decade. It would be nice if Kuminga could be that young piece to help balance the veteran quartet at the Warriors, but his fit with them and in Steve Kerr's system remains a big question mark and the key reason behind his inconsistent role. Perhaps that would change at the Clippers in a more simplified offense, allowing him to utilize his length, athleticism and scoring strengths in a way that would be much more natural than what he's afforded at the Warriors. The next question is whether the Clippers would have anything that Golden State would want in return for the former 7th overall pick. John Collins is clearly the obvious straight swap from both a skill set and contract standpoint, with the 28-year-old making slightly more at $26.6 million this season. Who would even give up a pick in that trade? Their values are probably fairly similar given they themselves are similar players. They're both hyper-athletic forwards with questionable outside shooting. Collins is slightly bigger and more proven, but Kuminga is still young enough to suggest greater upside. It feels like the Warriors wouldn't be thrilled many of the same fit issues they face with Kuminga would probably be present with Collins. It might not necessarily be the upgrade in talent that Golden State want, nor the kind of system fit they'd be willing to overlook the talent for. The idea of Kuminga on the Clippers is certainly an interesting one, but it's also highly unlikely given they, like the Warriors, want to push themselves into championship contention behind their aging stars. De'Anthony Melton. The young players could get their shot while he sits on the sidelines. As the Golden State Warriors enter the 2025-26 NBA season, their major offseason signings, of veterans Al Horford and De'Anthony Melton, will serve to provide the team with a fresh injection of veteran experience, shoring up two areas of need and giving head coach Steve Kerr more pieces who he can trust wholeheartedly. Yet, as the Warriors attempt to carve out their rotation, Melton is likely to miss the beginning of the season rehabbing the ACL injury he suffered last year, and younger guards such as Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody will get the first crack at proving their worth to the rotation. While Melton will be important to this team no matter what as long as he can stay healthy, he would have a serious case for a starting spot as a strong point-of-attack defender next to Stephen Curry. Yet, if Podziemski or Moody gets off to a hot start, Melton may have lost his chance at the job before he even plays his first game. Brandon Podziemski or Moses Moody will now get the chance to start before Melton. Last season, as the Warriors faced an eerily similar backcourt conundrum, the team had a stark decision to make. Would they attempt to pair Curry with a strong defender or another viable perimeter shooter to feed off of his gravity? Now, with Horford and Jimmy Butler in the starting lineup, the calculus has been altered slightly entering this season. While Horford, Draymond Green and Butler will form a formidable and staunch defensive unit, the team now needs additional scoring to surround these players. Podziemski, who averaged 11.7 points and shot 37.2% from three-point range last season, is the primary candidate to start at shooting guard as of now, especially given the fact that the organization thinks very highly of him as a potential future cornerstone of the franchise. However, Moody might still have a say in this. In Golden State's first preseason game, Moody posted 19 points, shooting 5 of 7 from beyond the arc and looking as though he had returned to his pre-injury form from last season. While Podziemski only had 8 points in that game, both players performed rather well in their relatively limited minutes. Melton, meanwhile, will need to re-ingratiate himself into the Warriors system whenever he does return from his injury, meaning that he will need time to get back to his full form. Therefore, in a loaded backcourt that will likely also feature Buddy Hield and Gary Payton too, Melton, who once had a serious chance to start, will now have his work cut out for him to earn his minutes once he returns, and Moody's performance in the team's first preseason game serves as a painful reminder of this fact. Warriors have painfully obvious need in Jonathan Kuminga trade. They need veterans that can help maximize their aging core. As the Golden State Warriors negotiated with restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga this offseason, they held strong to their demand that a team option, rather than a player option, be included in the deal as a direct result of their hope to move the contract at some point this season. Now, although Kuminga returns nominally to the rotation, the organization will likely begin shopping him as soon as they are able to, and, according to NBA analyst Amin El-Hassan on the most recent episode of The Kevin O'Connor Show, they must specifically seek to bring back experienced veterans in such a deal. While the team does already have 4 starters over the age of 35, their limited championship window will not allow them to experiment any longer with young talent. Instead, they must seek out reliable players to supplement Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green as they attempt to eke out one more championship run. The Warriors need to be seeking out more veteran talent this season in any potential Jonathan Kuminga move. In many ways, Golden State has already made their intentions for their roster clear throughout this offseason. Although they will still rely on relatively young players such as Brandon Podziemski and Moses Moody to take on significant roles in the rotation, almost all of their energy this offseason was focused upon bringing in veterans such as Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton who can gel quickly around Curry and Butler. Therefore, El-Hassan's belief that they should pursue more of that same talent in a Kuminga trade is not that far off of what the Warriors' goal likely is. They've got to get some more of those weird, in-between young vets, not too young to not know how the game is played but not too old to where they're dealing with their injury issues as well. This, certainly, is a delicate balance to strike in the NBA. Few and far between are the players who can simultaneously adapt quickly to multiple systems, can remain relatively healthy, and are available on the trade market for less than the $22.5 million that Kuminga is owed this year. To make matters more dicey, Golden State declined a trade offer this summer from the Sacramento Kings that would have netted them Malik Monk, a player that would have almost perfectly fit this description, as a result of their belief that he would not fit into the team's Curry-centric offensive scheme. In many senses, El-Hassan is right. If Kuminga is going to be moved this season, the Warriors must take advantage of whatever opportunity gets them even marginally closer to winning a championship rather than worrying about future dividends to be paid. Yet, netting veteran talent in exchange for Kuminga could prove to be much more difficult than it sounds when it's all said and done. Golden State would coast to the title. Stephen A. says it would be unfair if somehow Giannis ends up playing with Steph in the Bay. Stephen A. thinks that Giannis going to Golden State would break the league. With Giannis Antetokounmpo leaving the door open for a possible departure from the Milwaukee Bucks at the end of the season, NBA analysts and talking heads have been busy making cases for the Greek Freak to go to particular teams. ESPN's Stephen A. Smith has no problem with Giannis leaving Deer District. However, he does not want the 2-time NBA MVP to join another 2-time winner of the Michael Jordan Trophy in the Bay. You want to talk about unfairness in the National Basketball Association? Don't let Giannis get to Golden State with Steph Curry. If that happens, oh my lord. It wouldn't be fair to the basketball world. For those two to be wearing the same uniform on the court, especially if they kept Draymond Green, who's your point forward facilitator, who's your energizer bunny, and who feeds Steph Curry better than anybody on the planet, said Smith. Quentin Post hit with Warriors gut punch after harsh preseason truth. his role might be more limited than first thought. With Draymond Green and Al Horford occupying 2 spots in the Golden State Warriors starting lineup, Quinton Post could have foreseeably expected that he'd be the first big off the bench for Steve Kerr heading into this season. However, that may not necessarily be the case based on Sunday's preseason opener, with the second-year big man shunted back in the rotation following Kerr's controversial starting lineup decision. Quinton Post could be impacted by Steve Kerr's starting lineup choice. Kerr chose to remain with the starting lineup that proved so effective following last season's All-Star break, opening with a 5 of Stephen Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, Moses Moody and Green. That left Horford coming in as the 6th man, something the veteran center could adapt to rather easily after doing it previously for the Boston Celtics over the past 2 years. Whether he's starting or coming off the bench, Horford is going to play a major role for the Warriors whenever he's available. The same can't be necessarily said about Post, whose opportunity will be determined by what other combinations Kerr puts on the floor. The former 52nd overall pick didn't see court time until over halfway through the second quarter, by which point Kerr had already used 10 players through the first 18 minutes. Perhaps this should be taken with a grain of salt given it's the first preseason game, but it's still notable and suggests Post could be in for less minutes than first expected. The 25-year-old will have to stay ready at all times though, with a sudden spike in minutes likely to happen regularly throughout the season whenever Green and/or Horford rest or find themselves in foul trouble. Post was solid during his nearly 16 minutes on Sunday, recording 7 points, 3 rebounds, and a steal while finishing as a plus 22nd on Golden State behind Moses Moody's plus 21. His combination with Horford in a double-big lineup was notable to end the first half, helping to turn a 3-point deficit into a 7-point lead. Even with his role likely to fluctuate during the season, there should be confidence in Post's long-term potential given he's now got Horford as an ideal mentor. The pair spoke about each other on Tuesday, with Horford stating that his young teammate has what it takes to be successful. He is consistent with his work and he has the right tools to be successful because he listens, he works hard, and you can already see some flashes on the floor. Post was a revelation during the second half of his rookie season, having averaged 8.1 points and 3.5 rebounds while shooting a team-high 40.8% from three-point range. Michael Malone raves about new Warriors addition. Golden State Warriors fans waited a long time, but their team finally made off-season acquisitions. The most important was perhaps Al Horford, who is coming to Golden State after several years with the Boston Celtics. Speaking to NBC Sports, former NBA coach Michael Malone talked about how Horford could improve the team's offensive plans. Steve Kerr, historically, has not been a big pick-and-roll coach, Malone observed. They haven't had maybe the players. Now, you're adding a guy, in the last 10 years, who is one of the most prolific pick-and-pop bigs the game has seen. So, I think this is a match made in heaven. I know Steph Curry has to be really excited. NBC Sports dug into the numbers and found that the Warriors had only 10 total pick-and-roll plays last year. Horford could change all of that because he is celebrated as one of the best pick-and-pop big men in the NBA. Head coach Steve Kerr is definitely thinking about that as he drafts his plans for the season ahead. As with all things, the addition of Horford was seen as a way to help Steph Curry. Curry will always be the centerpiece of this team, and the front office is adamant about improving his chances of scoring. By allowing him and Horford to work up pick-and-roll possessions, the Warriors can score more and become more threatening and unpredictable with their offense. This isn't the only thing that Horford will bring to the team, because he's also an experienced and capable three-point shooter. Horford has many upsides, and Kerr and his Warriors want to see all of them in 2025 to 26.